Hello and welcome to this lesson number 2 in our Semantic SEO course. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to create a topical map based on the important entities, attributes, and values that your customers or searchers care about. So before we dive into how we have created this, I will give you a brief overview of what we're going to cover in this session. Okay, first of all, let me introduce you to the tools that we're going to use. So we have here the Wikipedia Graph Visualizer. Then we'll also use the Wikipedia Ontology Visualizer, which is at xefr.com. And I also recommend that you have the Wikipedia page open for what you are trying to research, ChatGPT and Perplexity. Now, on this xefr.com tool here, we're mainly looking to get into the mood to really do some background research of what it is we're writing about and what it is related to. So the topic of dog food is related to dogs, and that is related to the domestication of animals here. And so we can get a high level view of the kind of topics that are related to our thing that we're actually trying to write about. So biology is also something that, of course, influences dogs, and we will keep that in mind for the topical map that we're creating. Then we're also looking at the Wikipedia graph. You just come here, and I will provide a link for you to do that. Type in your topic. Make sure that there's a Wikipedia page existing for this topic as well. So in this case, dog food does have its own Wikipedia page. And we can see here now, these are the topics related to dog food. So we can see that there's a page specifically for senior dogs. There is a page for dog food itself. And that dog food page is related to something called Hill's Pet Nutrition. We would need to research that. That might be a brand. Then dog food for allergies has its own Wikipedia page. Then dog health is also something that's connected to that and all of the different dog health conditions. So this gives us a really good overview of what it is that we need to cover in our topical map potentially. But we will go back to the start here to actually, this was just an introduction of the tools and how you might use them. But let's go to the start here. So we have got our tools covered. The first thing that we actually want to do really as our first step in creating our topical map here is to define what is the business do that we're trying to create this topical map for, because that's highly important. Google does care about that. What's the justification for this website actually writing about this topic? So in this case, it's going to be a business selling dog food in Chicago, Illinois in the USA. And we're going to say that this business sells both in-store and online. So they have an online store as well, which means that we can use an address, which gets into another topic, but I will mention that briefly in case it helps you. You do want to analyze your business entity as well. So your business also is an entity. Let's say we have the business name Peter's Dog Food. Let's say that is our business, and that business also has an attribute that would be, for example, location or address, call that whatever you want, and then it also has a value, which is the actual physical address. Let's say 22 High Street in Chicago is the actual value of location or the address attribute. And Google does map these things in the back end of their system. And so it's important that you have this information factually correct across the internet. So this is your classical NAP example, name, address, phone number, and then W if you add the website and the social media accounts. And that is certainly important. But then you also have other attributes, which is the actual business operation, or what are they selling essentially. So that can be a service or... Okay, so for a dog food store, an example here would be that they have an attribute of sales, then the value is the actual things that they are selling, the dog food, dry food, and so on. And that would be different if you take a veterinarian, for example. They might not sell anything, they offer services. So they are strong on the attribute of service, and they offer surgery for dogs, checkups, and so on. And vaccinations probably as well. And so you can see that the topical map for a veterinarian versus a dog food store would look very different, because we need to focus on different things. Now that we've got our foundation set, let's actually jump in and do some research about the entities. As mentioned, Wikipedia is a good place to start. The first thing that I recommend is that you use the entity extraction tool, which I will also link up. So you will come here to this entity extractor tool, and you will just type in the Wikipedia page that you want to have analyzed and entities extracted. So we come to the entity extraction tool, and we simply say extract all entities from this Wikipedia page. The cool thing about this tool is that it has web browsing enabled, so you don't need to copy and paste any text. It simply visits the website. You will need GPT-4 for that one, I believe. Cool. And then it also organizes your entities instead of just giving you a list of random stuff. So quite powerful here. Now we've got general concepts around dog food. Quite good to go through this and make kind of a mental list of what is there. We later, of course, also want to store that, but basically these entities here, dogs and canines, would be going into one entity ID that Google has. So for each entity, Google has a specific ID stored. Let's say that's the one. And all languages revert back to this ID. So if you have the same word dog in Spanish or German, any other language, it all gets that same entity ID. And canine most likely has the same entity ID as dog, because it's just a different or medical name for the same thing. Then other topics here that are discussed on the page are carnivore versus omnivore. So given that we're selling dog food, it would be quite important to actually cover that topic. Then here it's about ingredients, starch, glucose, amylase, carbohydrates, all of that would be part of the ingredients list, nutrients, energy density, protein, fat. All of these topics could be covered under ingredients, and they would be very important to have part of our topical map. History, always important to also cover a little bit of the history, just in one article usually, right? Depending on the context of your site, you wouldn't expect the dog store to write 200 articles about the history of dogs. That's not the purpose of the website, and it would lead your website into the wrong direction. Whereas having one article on the history of dog food, for example, that could be quite important to cover. All right, here we've also got products and brands. So that will be part of our site. It's a common question on how can I cover other popular brands on my own website when I might not sell these brands, but usually the answer is with a versus article. So let's say you are selling Peter's dog food and you want to compare it to Sprat's dog food. You create a versus article and compare it to yours, which then you can compare on the different values that Google knows about. So Google knows dog food has a price. You can compare that on a cost basis, ingredient basis, and so on. And so you're creating that connection between your brand and the other brand as well with these types of comparison articles. Then types of dog food is going to be a massive part of our topical map. So we've got dry food, wet food, raw food. Then I actually don't like that this was mapped into, like senior dog was mapped into types of dog food. I would put that as a separate group, but this just gives you a rough overview. With ChatGPT, the first time you tell it to group something, it always does a pretty broad job. And then you tell it again, okay, now make the group smaller, it will become better. So simply take this, tell ChatGPT, hey, put this into even smaller groups now for me, and you will get a better result. All right, manufacturing process, that's important to cover. How is dog food made? The organization's also really important to cover. Can anybody just put something on the market and start selling dog food, or do you need approvals? What's the approval process? So these types of things are both important for your customers to know that you're selling certified products potentially, as well as Google to show that you understand the important entities in relation to rules, laws, and regulations around the thing that you're selling. And again, we would try to find a keyword ideally that has some search volume that aligns with us mentioning these entities. So to give you a specific example, I would not create an article that just has in the title Association of American Feed Control. I would create an article around does dog food need government approval, right? And that has search volume, most likely, or some kind of variation of this will have search volume. And then this is my title tag, and inside of that I mention the Association of Feed Control. So this is how you can cover entities that you can't create a separate article for. You find something that has search volume and relates to that entity, and then you mention it. So you don't always need to create a separate article for that. All right, health considerations really important. Dog owners are going to be conscious of the impacts of the dog food on the health. And then there's also underlying conditions such as obesity for the dog, arthritis, and other issues that the dog might have, and you can create content around that. Also, the delineation or comparison between human grade food and dog food will be important. Most likely also cat food, because I know there will be a lot of search volume around that. What's the difference of cat versus dog food? So covering that. And then, yeah, food scraps. So this is more about behavior, I suppose. What if you give a dog human food? Those types of things would be important to cover as well in your topical map. Okay, so we've got a pretty good overview here now. The important thing we need to do now is to figure out what here has actual search volume and how big of a part on our website should this be. For example, there might be situations where you're not really sure this historical figures and text, should this be a massive part of our website or not, right? In this case, it's clear, but if you're writing about a topic where you don't understand the topic in a good enough way, I will show you a method how you can find out how big you should cover something on your site. So let's do that together. We'll head over to SEMrush and we look at the top 100 search results here. In this case, what happened to me is I looked at the top 100 and there were like 58 brands mentioned in there, which made it really hard for me to find the things that people actually care about because there were so many brand searches. So what I've done is I've said here, hey, ChatGPT, I've exported the top 100 results. Then I've told ChatGPT, extract just the brands from this. So tell me just the brand names in there. And now I'm using these brands as negative keywords in here so that they will be excluded. And then again, I've taken this list and told ChatGPT group them together. So I can find what are the big groups that has a lot of search volume. Because naturally, if something around the topic that you're selling or a service you're providing, if that has a lot of search volume, then you should make that a relatively big part of your topical map because Google realizes people care about that specific thing. There may be then options to rank for what we call a query pattern or a keyword pattern, where it's about, let's say you're talking about how to clean something, right? If you do a website about cleaning, people want to know how to clean your couch, how to clean your t-shirt, how to clean your pants, right? That's a pattern that repeats itself, and we can find that by doing this analysis on SEMrush and looking at the most important keywords there. Okay, and now much more efficient than just scrolling through this big list is to click here, select the first 100 and export that. And now we put that into ChatGPT, where I think I've got that open already. We're simply saying, group these by search intent, create small groups that logically fit together, think deeply before writing. And now we get these groups here where we get keywords with informational intent. What is this? Specific types of dog food. But this was not really clearly enough grouped. So I wanted to actually put this into an entity attribute value format. I will actually create a ChatGPT for that as well, so that you can do that in an easier way like I've done here. And so what we want is to have essentially the entity of dog food, then the attribute and the values listed out, so that we can later order that and find what the most important things are that we should cover based on the interest, right? We're just looking at the top 100 searches here around the topic that we're writing about. So then we put that into this format, simply copy that from ChatGPT into Markdown Converter and then into Google Sheets. And I'll create this, give you this as a template as well, so you can use that. Okay, so then you want to order that by attribute in here. And we can see that the type of dog food is something that came up a lot. So this is dry food, freeze-dried food, raw food. Homemade is also organized as type. I don't know, maybe I would make this more as manufacturing method, but that's fine. We get that the DIY intent is there. And now we want to also map here what's the importance, right? And the importance is a factor of something that relates to your business. So if it's very closely related to a business, then it is very important to cover. And a mix of if there's search demand for that. So to give an example, something that your business does provide, but there's no search demand, then we would put importance as low. If it's something that your business provides with high search demand, then the importance here is on high, and so on. So you get that idea that it's the relationship between search demand and whether your business actually provides it or not. And then you can also think of the distance, right? How far is that topic away from me actually providing it or not? So you can think about those edge cases. And then topic size, right? The topic size is determined by mainly the search demand. So if we have discovered that, yes, our business provides that thing and there's huge search demand, then the topic size should be big. So again, it's basically based on whether our business provides this. And then search demand as well, pretty much. And we'll go into some examples here further. We can see here dog food, wet and dry is very important, that many people search and care about. I would deduplicate that here and remove that from there. Just keep it as texture. So we are selling dry dog food. There's a lot of search volume on it, and therefore we select high and large topic size here. And then once we've written it, you can check these and basically say, yep, I've covered that attribute of the entity dog food and the values I've also discussed. Now, so far we are just in the planning stage. Later we also go deeper into writing an actual article. But in that planning stage, we can also plan for the actual definition. So we need to define what is dry dog food and basically give a specific value, right? If it's dry, it must have moisture level below 1%, for example. That would be a good answer that can land us a featured snippet. But we'll get to those details later on, how to actually write to get featured snippets. Okay, cool. So you now have a method to basically look at what's my main entity, what are the attributes and the values that my customers care about based on the search demand that we have seen here inside of SEMrush. And you would now repeat that for the other entities as well. So we've only covered dog food as an entity. You would then expand out further to other entities. So we've seen here on the wiki graph that we also have things like dental health. So you would have basically the entity of dental health, and then you could have certain other topics under that you would also cover, and always related back to the impact of food, right? You need to keep that in mind. Don't just start writing about dental health in general for dogs. You want to write it related back to certain foods, because otherwise you lose that context of what your business provides. You're not a veterinarian, you haven't studied dental health in dogs. You need to basically shift the articles with the focus back to the actual products that you are providing and try to find keywords that relate to that. So we've now created this list here of further entities that we can cover, such as glucose, protein, fat, meat. All of those things would be part of talking about a dog food diet. Now the question is, how can we actually cover the topic of glucose or sugar inside of our topical map? So let's do that research together to give you a decision-making process around that. So I like SEMrush Keyword Magic for this, where we simply type in the word dog and sugar, and we can see here that the kind of keywords that are coming up: can dogs eat sugar snap peas, symptoms of diabetes, can dogs eat sugar? And I would make a decision here based on the topical or the authority of your website in general. So what's your domain rating overall? How old is your domain? And start writing articles using the avalanche method, which means that you start with easy to rank articles on a topic. So we would start with a low keyword difficulty here in the very easy range if you are a new website. And then it of course depends on your source context as well. If you are a veterinarian, a doctor for dogs, then you're going to start with the dog blood sugar levels here. If you are someone who sells dog food, okay, so if you are a dog food store, you would go for things like low sugar dog food. And even though it has only 30 searches per month, there's lots of variations for that. So there's still potential to get 50 to 100 visitors to this page. And it matches your source context better because you're selling dog food. It's better to write about this topic when compared to what are the correct blood sugar levels, because that would be more of a veterinarian type of topic. Okay, there's also keywords around low glucose dog food, glucose management through dog food, which is really good topics actually. But let's say, what could you do if both glucose and sugar does not appear? Well, you could then combine that under carbohydrates. So you could say, look for carbs, right? Because sugar is a type of carb. You could put that into an article about low carb dog food. There you can mention sugar, glucose, blood sugar levels. So you don't always, again, need to cover an entity in the title of your article. You can cover entities also as subheadings of certain articles. So that is basically how we can make a decision, how we can cover entities in the best way for our topical map. So I wanted to show you the hosting platform that I use for all of my websites that I deploy topical maps on. I use Cloudways, and the way you would set that up is, if you're an e-commerce store, you would select here when you create a new server, you basically go server and create. You select here that you are a WooCommerce website. That is something that we've set up for a lot of our own websites. And if you are a regular business providing services or a blogger, then you can select WordPress version 6 here. You can even host custom apps such as Laravel and Magento websites on here. Especially the Magento hosting I've tried myself for e-commerce, and it works very well. It's a lot faster than the previous solution that we've used. And let's say we want a e-commerce store. We simply give it a name over here and a name. And now we basically switch down and we select the server size. So if you're e-commerce, I would recommend minimum of 2 gigabytes, if not 4 gigabytes. If you're building a simple hobby site, then it can be as cheap as $11 per month. You can most likely start on the 1 gigabyte or the 1 gigabyte premium, where the premium gives you faster CPU cores, which can help to increase that loading speed of your site. And you get a pretty generous 25 gigabyte storage space and 1 terabyte transfer. And really important to select the correct location here. So you would go Singapore if you're a Singaporean business, New York if you're in America, because the distance from the server to your actual customer is super important. So to make sure your websites load quickly, grab that discount code in the description. And let's get back to our tutorial now. So we've had a chat now about how to create the topical map. Now the thing is, the problem that I see a lot of people do is they basically spend a whole lot of time trying to plan their topical map, but they never actually start writing it, or the time that they spend on the actual writing of articles is much smaller than the time on planning, right? So the results will come from you actually writing high quality articles and not from you sitting inside of spreadsheets and planning stuff. So basically what I'm trying to say is, as soon as you have this core entity finished, you wouldn't even necessarily have to go into other entities, because you can start writing first about the types of dog food here. You can start writing about the age groups. You already can write about the health concerns like allergies for dog food, best for allergies for dogs, and so on. So you've got everything here ready to create probably 20 to 30 articles. So don't make the mistake of getting stuck in planning mode and not creating content. And once you do create content, make sure it's high quality, because even the best topical map does not help if you don't follow the basics correctly. So issues that I still see people make quite often, so mistakes here. So mistakes in semantic SEO. I would say the biggest issue is still not matching titles to actual keywords. So what that means is people would choose a title that they feels good. Let's say it is common trends in dog food manufacturing, right? Somehow I've come up with this and how AI impacts that, right? Let's say I've come up with this idea that somehow AI might now influence dog food manufacturing. And I think that's a fantastic idea to write about. The problem with that is nobody is searching for that, and Google is a search engine. So make sure that all of the titles that you have some kind of search volume, because if they don't, then it's really hard for Google to match the keywords to the article, right? Because competitors will have that set up in the correct way. So basically, mistake number one, not matching keywords to titles. Somehow, I think some people have gotten confused with semantic SEO, what it actually means and how it works. And I see that a lot, that people go off track with this basic thing. Mistake number one is the distance, right? So it means distance to your core business. So people might sell dog food, but then they start writing about, I don't know, fashion in the dog industry, or things that are just not completely not related to dog food. And that's a real problem, because then Google can't really map what your website is about, because you're covering things on so many different topics. Okay, point 3 and 4. 3, repetitive articles. So I often see it that people repeat the same thing inside of the introduction, in the main body, and then in the FAQ. So you're constantly giving the same facts. Try to introduce new concepts, but only if they relate to the main question that the person had in the first place. Don't start to write about things that are outside of the scope that is defined by the heading of the article. So the title and heading of the article should be the same. So that means H1 equals the title, heading tag equals the title of the article. And staying on topic and mentioning the same things in the article that a reader would expect given the title is really important. Whereas I've seen it that people have a title on topic A, and then in the article they discuss topic X, Y, and Z, and the reader's like, how is this related to what I wanted to know? And that's the real problem that happens a lot, and that results in bad quality scores, because readers are going to tune out. If you write a 5,000 word article with the title of A, and then you mention completely different topics, nobody's going to read that. So keep it concise. Don't repeat stuff, and inside each article don't discuss too many topics, only the ones that are relevant to actually answering the user's question and giving him further knowledge on the topic that he searched about. So that's basically a rule that you can ask yourself: is this giving the user what he typed in? If the answer is yes, then good. If the answer is no, then you can say, okay, does this extend the knowledge based on what the user has typed in? Is it kind of providing some new information but still on the topic? If the answer is no to that, you probably should not include that in your article. Okay, lastly, point number 5 is not using custom images, which goes hand in hand with low human effort. So meaning when people publish articles, ask yourself what could be helpful for the user to see there. Let's try to find an example here for dog blood sugar. Let's try to find some images here that could actually help a user, right? That table could be quite helpful to tell a user what a dog's blood sugar level should be. An infographic here that shows that you've actually put effort into the article. Here you've got an ideal glucose curve. If somebody has a way to measure their own blood, their dog's blood, they can actually use this. So have you, through the images, provided some helpful input to the user? That is exactly what Google is basically saying in their quality rater guidelines, that you need to put human effort in that shows that you're actually helping users out in a unique way. And I would say these guys have definitely achieved that. But if you're just grabbing images from ChatGPT, most likely you have not achieved that, because you're not meeting the human effort mark, basically. Now, there are some tools now like Flux Pro. It's a new image generation tool. That is quite good. So you might be able to try that, because that can actually put text into your articles. But still, it's most likely just a starting point, because the real good images, they would look something like this, where basically we're describing a lot of different things, containing entities here inside of the images. And you can see this is definitely created by a human. No AI could do this. And this would basically set this website apart from competitors, because they've put their knowledge into an image format, which is what people want to consume, right? People don't really want to read text most of the time. They want to understand things in an easy way through images. So up your image game, and you will see that your website quality scores overall will increase, which manifests itself in more web traffic, right? Because Google does keep scores on how high of a quality articles are. I've tried myself years ago to index completely AI content, and it's really, really hard to get that stuff indexed, because Google realizes the quality of those articles is just too low, and therefore they don't index very well. All right, I wanted to provide you with those key takeaways and mistakes to avoid, so that you can already go off, start creating your topical map. Again, I will create a link to all of those resources. I've put a lot of work into this, so if you could share the video, like and subscribe, and leave a comment in the channel containing semantic SEO and topical maps as a keyword for YouTube, that would really help YouTube's algorithm for other people to discover this video, and hopefully it helps them as well. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.